She was the most disliked staff in the Billionaire's company, always clumsy, always mocked. But when she surprised her boss with a simple gift on his birthday, what he did next left the entire office speechless. Stay tuned because you're about to watch a beautiful story and find out what happened next. Hello, family. Welcome to Tales Haven. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful stories. Thank you as you do so. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. Maya Lewis had a habit of turning even ordinary mornings into small adventures, usually the messy kind. At Henderson Group, the billion-dollar company owned by the sharp and perfection-obsessed Ethan Henderson, Maya was known as the walking hazard. She didn't mean to be. Trouble just seemed to follow her like a shadow with a sense of humor. If there was a broken printer, Maya was there. If someone tripped over a power cord, guess whose desk was nearby? And if coffee mysteriously appeared on a report meant for the CEO, yes, Maya again. Every morning, she arrived at the tall glass building balancing a steaming cup of tea, her old handbag, and a stack of files. And every morning, she told herself, "Today, I'll be perfect." By lunchtime, something always went wrong. "Careful, here comes Miss Oops," whispered Jason from finance as Maya passed. His friend chuckled. "Hide the coffee cups." Maya smiled, pretending it didn't hurt. "Good morning to you too, gentlemen." Behind that cheerful tone was a heart that got bruised more than she showed. She needed the job, not because it paid well, it barely did, but because she was helping her mother recover from surgery. That thought alone kept her from quitting, even on the worst days. At the top of the company sat Ethan Henderson, a 36-year-old billionaire who ran his empire with an iron will and a face that could scare a thunderstorm. His office looked like something from a movie, floor-to-ceiling windows, a desk polished enough to see a reflection, and a golden clock that ticked louder than most people dared to breathe around him. Ethan was known for being brilliant and brutally honest. He once fired a manager for being late to a meeting by 45 seconds. The man didn't hate people, he just believed emotions slowed progress. And among all his employees, the one he had the least patience for was Maya. He never yelled at her, he didn't need to. His cold silence was enough. One glare from Ethan could freeze a cup of coffee midair. Everyone remembered that day. It was during a big presentation in the boardroom. Maya, assigned to serve refreshments, was trying to carry a tray of orange juice. Just as Ethan was explaining quarterly profits to investors, Maya tripped on a loose wire. Time slowed. 12 glasses of juice flew across the room, and one landed perfectly across Ethan's crisp, white shirt. The room went silent. Maya gasped, mortified. Oh no, sir. I am so sorry." She grabbed tissues, but the more she wiped, the worse it looked. Ethan stared at her, expression unreadable. Then, in a tone that could slice steel, he said, "Miss Lewis, are you trying to add color to our presentation?" Laughter rippled across the table. Maya froze, her cheeks burning. She wanted to melt into the carpet. Ethan stood, removed his stained jacket, and said quietly, "Get someone else to handle refreshments next time." That moment became office legend. Someone even made a meme about it on the staff group chat titled, "Orange, you glad it's not you?" Maya laughed along, but when she got home that night, she cried into her pillow. Still, she refused to give up. Every morning after that, she greeted everyone with the same gentle smile. When others mocked her, she offered to help them with their reports. When the cleaning lady looked tired, Maya stayed late to mop the floor beside her. And when she saw Ethan working alone late one night, she quietly left a cup of black coffee on his desk with a sticky note that said, "Even superheroes need caffeine." He didn't say thank you, but she saw the empty cup later, and that was enough for her. Then, one Thursday evening, she overheard the HR manager whispering in the hallway, "Tomorrow's Mr. Henderson's birthday. But don't even think of saying it aloud. Remember last year?" Last year, someone tried to surprise Ethan with a small cake. He'd simply said, "Put it in the cafeteria. I have deadlines, not candles." Maya smiled faintly. Most people would have taken that as a warning, but she took it as a challenge. That night, in her tiny apartment, Maya stayed up carving something out of old wood scraps her neighbor had given her. Her fingers hurt, and she accidentally glued her sleeve to the table once, but she didn't stop. When she finally held it up to the light, it was a small, hand-painted clock. A bit uneven, a little rough, but beautiful in its own humble way. On the front, she painted the words, "Time is precious, but kindness is timeless." She wrapped it neatly in brown paper, tied it with a blue ribbon, and whispered to herself, "Happy birthday, Mr. Henderson. Let's see if kindness still works in this world." She didn't know it yet, but that small handmade gift was about to change her life, and his forever. Morning light spilled across the city like soft gold as Maya Lewis stepped off the bus with a small, brown-wrapped box hugged to her chest. She had barely slept. Every hour of the night, she had checked the ribbon to make sure it was still tied. Every few minutes, she whispered the message in her head. Time is precious, but kindness is timeless. At the lobby of Henderson Group, the marble floors shone like water. The security guard, Mr. Ben, gave her a curious look. "New lunchbox," he teased. Maya smiled nervously. "A special delivery." "Be careful," he said, lowering his voice. "You know who hates surprises." "I know," she whispered back. "But maybe he won't hate this one." The elevator hummed to the 27th floor. As the doors opened, the quiet of the executive level greeted her. Cool air, slow footsteps, and the soft tick of the corridor clock. The receptionist, Rita, lifted her brows. "What's that?" Rita asked. "A small birthday gift," Maya said. Rita blinked. "For him?" Maya nodded. Rita leaned forward, whispering, "If you don't come back in 5 minutes, should I call your mother?" Maya laughed in a small, shaky way. "Please wait 10. I might faint first." She walked down the long hallway toward the glass office that everyone feared, the one with the skyline view and the man who ran on precision. On the door, Ethan Henderson, CEO. She adjusted the ribbon one last time, breathed in, and knocked. "Come in," came the firm voice. Maya pushed the door slowly and stepped inside. Ethan Henderson was standing by the window, a tall figure in a charcoal suit, city light drawing edges around him. His desk was arranged in straight lines, files stacked precisely, pens equidistant, a laptop that looked like it belonged in a museum of order. He turned. "Miss Lewis," he said, "is something wrong with the quarterly reports?"
"No, sir."
"They're on schedule." Her voice wobbled, so she steadied it. I brought something for you." He glanced at the package, then at Maya. "For me?" "Yes, sir. I know you don't like noise." "This is quiet," she said, holding out the box with both hands like it was made of glass. "Happy birthday." Silence rested between them. The air conditioner clicked softly. Ethan's face gave nothing away. He walked to the desk, sat, and set the package down without taking his eyes off her. "Who informed you?" "No one, sir," Maya replied. "I overheard HR. But I didn't tell anyone. She swallowed. "I just wanted to say it. Once." He studied her for a moment, then slid the ribbon loose with 2 fingers. The paper peeled back to reveal the little wooden clock, hand-painted edges, a slightly uneven circle, and the words written with patient care. "Time is precious, but kindness is timeless." Ethan didn't touch it at first. He only looked. His eyes moved slowly, tracing the brush marks, the small imperfections, the careful polish. He reached out and almost gently lifted it. "You made this," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, sir." "With company resources?" Maya blinked.
"No, sir."
"With my neighbor's wood scraps." She tried to smile. "The only company resource used was my courage." A small sound escaped him. It wasn't quite a laugh, but it wasn't cold either. He turned the clock around in his hands, as if reading it could take longer than reading a book. "Why a clock?" he asked. "Because you respect time," she said softly. "But I thought maybe someone should remind you that the way you spend time with people matters too." He set the clock down. The second hand ticked once, almost politely. "And why from you?" His tone was not sharp. It was curious. Maya's fingers tightened around each other. "Because I make mistakes, sir. Many." People notice those. But I wanted you to notice something else about me, too. That I have a heart. That I'm trying. Ethan leaned back. The city noise was faint through the glass, like a faraway ocean. You know, he said at last, I dislike disruptions. Yes, sir, she said quickly. I kept the gift small. His eyes flicked up to hers, and something unguarded passed between them. A brief warmth, a memory of a feeling he used to recognize. Miss Lewis, he said, voice lower. Do you know the last time someone gave me a handmade gift? She shook her head. I was 12. It was a paper boat from my mother. She said, if the river is strong, make your boat stronger. He paused, surprised at himself. I haven't thought of that in years. Maya's face softened. She sounds kind. She was. His gaze dropped to the clock again. Is it accurate? Maya blinked. Sir? The time. Is it accurate? A faint thread of humor tugged at his mouth.
Oh, yes.
I checked with my phone. Twice. She lifted a hand. Okay, 3 times. Now he did laugh. Quiet, quick, like a sound that had been locked up and had to learn the way out. Outside the glass, 2 assistants walking by glanced at each other, alarmed. Was that a laughter? Ethan stood, carried the clock to the side of his desk, and cleared a space large enough for it to sit like a small king. He placed it there, aligned it with the desk edge, then, without thinking, nudged it a millimeter to the right. Perfect. He looked up at Maya. Thank you. 2 simple words. They landed like sunlight. Maya blinked, sure she had misheard. Sir? I said, thank you. His tone was plain, but his eyes were not. He searched for the correct word. Work is careful. Careful, she echoed, a delighted whisper. That's the nicest thing anyone has called my work this month. Good. You may repeat it to HR if they need a quote. The corner of his mouth lifted. She let out a breath that sounded a little like a laugh, a little like a prayer. I'll leave you to your schedule, sir. Miss Lewis, he said, stopping her at the door. She turned. He gestured toward a chair. You may sit for a minute. Maya sat on the edge of the seat, hands on her knees, surprised and suddenly aware of the clock's soft ticking. Ethan opened a desk drawer and brought out a small white box. I don't like public celebrations, he said, but my assistant insists I keep these. He opened the box to reveal 2 simple cupcakes. No glitter, no candles, just vanilla with a swirl of cream. He pushed one toward her and kept the other. Maya's eyes widened. For me? You brought a clock, he said. I can offer a cupcake. She bit her lip to stop an unprofessional grin. This is the quietest party I've ever attended. Excellent, he said dryly. It's my favorite type. They ate in a silence that wasn't heavy. At one point, Maya tried to take a neat bite and ended up with cream on her nose. She froze, mortified. Ethan passed her a napkin without a word, face steady, but his eyes unmistakably amused. I'm fine, she said, patting her face. All under control. One could argue otherwise, he murmured. They both smiled. When Maya finally stood to go, the clock's second hand made another gentle circle, as if sealing an agreement the room understood before they did. Happy birthday, sir, she said again, calmer now. Thank you, Miss Lewis, he replied. Then, after a beat, for the record, the quote is correct. She tilted her head. About kindness?
About time, he said. His voice softened.
And about what stays. Maya nodded, feeling a warmth rise in her chest. She reached for the door handle. Miss Lewis, he added. She looked back. You may coordinate with facilities to fix the loose wire in the boardroom, he said. No more juice disasters. Her cheeks colored. Yes, sir. I'll make sure the river is strong. He frowned, puzzled, then understood. The paper boat. His mouth relaxed.
Good.
Maya stepped into the hallway holding an empty napkin and a full heart. Rita shot to her feet. You're alive. Very, Maya said, almost laughing. He liked it. Liked what? The clock. Rita blinked twice. He put it where? On his desk. Rita sank into her chair. I need water. As Maya walked back to her workstation, people tried not to stare and failed. A whisper moved from desk to desk like wind through tall grass. He thanked her. Inside the glass office, Ethan stood looking at the skyline, the little wooden clock steady in his peripheral vision. He checked the time on his wristwatch, then on the clock, and nodded to himself. Accurate. Quiet. Persistent. For the first time in a long while, he felt a small, unfamiliar peace. By the next morning, the 27th floor felt different. The air still smelled like fresh paper and expensive polish, but something softer moved through it, like a song you recognize but haven't heard in years. People tried to work as usual. They typed. They stapled. They pretended not to whisper. "Did you hear?" He thanked her. He put the gift on his desk. At her workstation, Maya Lewis set down a roll of tape, a small toolkit, and a printed maintenance request. The words at the top read, "Boardroom, loose wire under presentation table. Requested by M. Lewis." She wasn't a technician, but she knew how to get things done. She called facilities, waited patiently on hold, and when the team arrived, she guided them into the boardroom. "That wire," she said, pointing. "It tripped me last time." The engineer crouched, tested the cable, and secured it with a low, neat channel. "Fixed," he said. Maya stared at the safe, smooth floor, and felt a small victory warm her chest. No more crashes. No more flying juice. She smiled and thanked the team like they had saved a life. Outside, Jason from finance leaned on a cubicle wall as she walked by. "So, Miss Clockmaker," he said with a grin, "what does the time say now, promotion o'clock?" Maya kept her voice light. "It says kindness is 5 minutes early." Jason rolled his eyes, but he smiled despite himself. In Ethan Henderson's office, the little wooden clock sat where the city light could touch it. The second hand moved in patient steps. Ethan had checked it twice that morning, once out of habit, once out of, well, he wasn't sure what to call it. He had a full schedule: budget review at 10, investor call at 11:30, legal update at 1. Everything in his calendar was sharp, timed, and measured. And yet, when he glanced at the clock, the words pulled him gently out of the race. Time is precious, but kindness is timeless. He caught himself almost smiling. Almost. "Rita," he said through the intercom, "send Miss Lewis with the updated expense sheets." A pause. "Miss Lewis?" "Right away, sir." Even the intercom sounded surprised. At 10:15, the executive coffee machine gave up on life. It coughed twice, blinked its tiny red light, and went dark. "Emergency," whispered Clara from accounting. "The machine is dead." "Call IT," someone said. "They fix computers, not coffee." In the middle of the mild panic, Maya opened a cupboard and found an old French press, 2 packets of ground coffee, and a kettle that still worked. "Backup plan," she said, rinsing the press. "We'll survive." She boiled water, measured the coffee, waited for the bloom, and pressed with slow, steady hands. The floor filled with a warm, honest smell, like mornings at home, not mornings in a tower. Clara took a sip and sighed. "This tastes like a hug." "Don't tell the machine," Maya whispered. "It'll get jealous." Laughter bubbled around the counter. The sound reached the hallway, soft, harmless, human. At 11:20, Ethan's investor call started early. The connection crackled. A graph wouldn't load. A file link refused to open. He signaled through the glass. "I need the expense sheets." Rita gestured to the stack. Jason hesitated. "They're not final. Column C still has the old rates." Maya glanced at the sheets, scanned the numbers, and spotted the problem. "The rates changed last month," she said calmly. "Use the adjusted table from the memo I sent. Page 2. She flipped, circled 3 cells, and typed the new totals into a clean print. Her fingers moved quickly, but carefully. "Go," Rita said, handing her the set. Maya walked to the door, took a breath, and entered. Ethan looked up mid-sentence, took the pages without breaking his tone, and slid them into the camera's view. "As you can see," he said smoothly, "the adjustment reduces overhead by 2% in Q3. The investor's voice warmed. Clear now. Thank you. Ethan glanced at the corner where the clock sat, then back at Maya. He didn't say anything, not with the call live. But his eyes said, good timing. Maya dipped her head and left quietly. At lunch, Mr. Ben from security rolled in a cart of spare water bottles. He moved slower than usual. You okay? Maya asked. Back pain, he said, trying to wave it off. Sit, she said gently. I'll distribute. You have your own work. I'm doing it, she said, already lifting the crate. Down the row she went, dropping bottles at desks, smiling at each person like they mattered, because to her, they did. Some people looked surprised.
Some looked shy.
A few muttered thank yous. Jason stared at his bottle for a long time, then cleared his throat. Thanks, Maya. Stay hydrated, she said with a mock serious face. Company policy. Page 1, don't faint. He laughed, short and real. Not all whispers are kind. Near the printer, Maya paused when two voices floated over the hum. She thinks a wooden clock equals talent.
Please.
Managers like safe faces, not clumsy hands. Maya stood still for a second, then changed the printer ink with steady fingers. When it was done, she placed a small note on the tray. If the paper jams, don't pull. Open the side and breathe. She walked away before they could see her smile. At 2:05, a courier arrived with a rush contract. He came in too fast, clipped the corner stand, and sent a tall stack of glossy brochures sliding across the floor. Maya reached for them, and her foot slid. A silent gasp went around the hall.
She didn't fall.
A hand closed around her elbow.
Firm. Steady. Ethan.
He had stepped out his office at the exact second she needed balance. For a heartbeat, the floor, the noise, and the building vanished. It was only the grip, the breath, the surprise in both of their eyes. Careful, he said, voice low, not cold. I'm fine, she managed, breathless. Under control. That could be argued, he said, and a quick smile broke across his face before he could stop it. He released her gently, bent, and helped gather the brochures into a neat stack. The corridor watched a billionaire CEO straighten edges on the floor with a junior staff member, and no one quite knew what to do with the picture. When they finished, Maya whispered, "Thank you." He nodded once. "Return these to reception," he said to the courier, then to Maya, "Walk with me." They stepped into his office. The city lay wide and bright beyond the glass. "What you did during the call," Ethan said, "was fast and correct." "I keep a folder of updated memos," she said, suddenly shy. "It helps me learn." "Keep doing that." He hesitated. "And the coffee machine? You solved a small problem before it became a loud one." "French press saves lives," she said solemnly. He huffed a quiet laugh, then grew thoughtful. "Miss Lewis, Maya, people often confuse kindness with weakness." She looked up. "I know. They shouldn't." He tapped the desk once, a soft sound. "Kindness with competence is strength." For a moment, they simply stood there, listening to the small clock count seconds like pearls. Maya's phone buzzed. "A message from Mom. Doctor says I'm healing well. Don't worry. Eat lunch, you stubborn child." Her eyes stung. She blinked the tears away quickly. "All right?" Ethan asked. "Yes," she said, steady again. "Just good news."
"Good," he said.
He didn't press. By late afternoon, the executive level felt less like a museum and more like a place where people worked together. Clara shared her extra sandwich triangles. Jason fixed a formula no one asked him to fix and dropped Maya a note. "Check column F, should be cleaner now." Mr. Ben stood taller. And the clock kept time. Accurate, quiet, persistent. At 4:30, Rita peeked into Ethan's office. "Sir, tomorrow's town hall is confirmed. Staff from floors 20 to 28. Ethan glanced at the skyline, at the small clock, at the tidy stack of notes in Maya's handwriting. "Add 10 minutes at the start," he said. "For what, sir?" He considered. "For something we rarely make time for." Rita blinked. "Yes, sir." When she left, Ethan turned the clock a single degree so it faced the room, not the window. The message looked back at him as if giving permission. Time is precious, but kindness is timeless. Evenings softened the building into gold. People packed their bags with less hurry and more peace. Maya wiped her desk, tucked her small toolkit into a drawer, and took one last look down the hall. Through the glass, she could see the clock on Ethan's desk, catching the last light like a quiet star. She smiled. In the calm, a thought rose in her like a promise. Tomorrow, the whole company will hear something new. The next morning began brighter than usual. Sunlight flooded through the tall glass windows of Henderson Group, making the entire 27th floor glow. The building seemed alive, as if even the walls sensed that something new was about to happen. The staff gathered early for the company's town hall meeting, a monthly session where the Billionaire CEO, Ethan Henderson, usually reviewed profits, deadlines, and policies with his famous seriousness. But today, whispers filled the air. Why did he ask everyone to come 10 minutes early? I heard he's going to announce a new branch. No, maybe a salary cut. Or a surprise audit. Maya stood at the back of the crowd, her heart racing. She didn't know what to expect either. The last time she stood in front of everyone during a meeting, it had involved orange juice, panic, and humiliation. She quietly prayed this wouldn't be part two. At exactly 9 a.m., the sound of footsteps silenced the room. Ethan Henderson entered, tall, calm, and dressed in a black suit that made him look every bit the powerful man he was.
But there was something different about him this time.
His expression was softer. The tension that usually followed him like a shadow wasn't there. He stood before his employees and looked around slowly, meeting their eyes one by one. Then he smiled, a small, sincere smile that made people whisper to themselves in disbelief. "Good morning," he began, his voice firm but warm. "I called this meeting for something a little different today." People glanced at each other. Ethan never used the word different unless something truly was. He gestured to the small wooden clock on the table beside him, the very one Maya had made with her own hands. "Before we talk about numbers and reports, I want to talk about this." A low murmur swept through the hall. Everyone recognized it. Ethan lifted the clock carefully. "Last week, a staff member brought this to me. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't polished. But it carried a message I couldn't ignore." He paused and read the words aloud. "Time is precious, but kindness is timeless." The hall grew still. Even the hum of the air conditioner seemed to fade. "For years," Ethan continued, "I built this company believing that perfection and discipline were the keys to success. And while those things matter, I forgot something far more powerful, the human heart behind the work." He looked toward the back of the room, where Maya stood frozen. "One of our staff reminded me of that." Maya blinked rapidly. Her fingers twisted together nervously. The attention made her stomach flutter. Ethan stepped aside slightly. "Miss Maya Lewis, would you please come forward?" Gasps spread through the crowd. Clara whispered. "Oh my goodness," he said, "please." Jason nudged her. "And Maya Lewis." Maya felt her knees wobble, but she walked slowly to the front. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Yes, sir?" Ethan smiled gently. "Don't look so terrified. I'm not firing you." That broke the tension. The crowd chuckled softly. Even Maya laughed nervously. Ethan continued. "This young woman has been called many things, clumsy, distracted, maybe even unlucky." A few people lowered their eyes in guilt. "But what most people missed," he said, "is her heart. Miss Lewis has shown more courage, patience, and kindness than any number or chart could ever measure." He set the clock back on the table and turned to the audience. "When she gave me this gift, she reminded me that leadership isn't about how loud your voice is. It's about how deeply you make people feel seen." And that lesson came not from a top executive, but from the most humble person in this building. The room erupted in applause, genuine, strong, emotional. Maya stood in shock, her eyes wide and glossy. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Ethan raised a hand for quiet. "From today," he said clearly, "Miss Maya Lewis will be promoted to personal assistant to the CEO. Her dedication deserves more than just words." The staff gasped again. Rita covered her mouth. Jason actually cheered. Maya looked like someone who had just been told the moon belonged to her. "Sir, me," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "Yes, you." She blinked, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say." "Then don't," he said with a smile. "Just keep being you." As the applause settled, Maya rubbed her eyes quickly.
"Thank you, sir."
"I promise I'll do my best, and—" She stopped mid-sentence and smiled nervously. "And I'll try very hard not to spill anything on your desk." Laughter burst through the crowd. Ethan chuckled softly. "Good. Because that desk is imported from Italy." Jason shouted playfully. "Get her a spill-proof mug, boss." The whole floor laughed again, louder this time. Even Ethan laughed, really laughed. The kind of laugh that sounded like relief. It was a new sound in that office. And no one wanted it to end. When the meeting ended, people surrounded Maya, congratulating her with warm smiles and pats on the back. Some apologized quietly for mocking her before. "You proved us wrong, Maya," said Clara, teary-eyed. "You really did." Maya smiled. "I didn't do it alone. You all helped, even when you didn't know it." She turned to Ethan, who was speaking to a few executives near the podium. For a second, their eyes met. He gave her a small nod, the kind that meant thank you, again. Later that afternoon, Maya helped him reorganize some files in his office. The clock ticked softly beside them. "Do you ever take a break, sir?" she asked shyly. He looked up. "Maybe now I will," he said, smiling. "You've made it easier to remember what time is really for." As the sun dipped below the skyline, the office lights reflected gently on the glass walls. The once cold and silent building now carried laughter, chatter, and the quiet rhythm of teamwork. Maya stood by the window, looking at the city lights blinking awake. Ethan walked up beside her, hands in his pockets. "You know," he said, "for someone who nearly drowned me in orange juice, you've done quite well." She laughed softly. "Guess I've improved." He nodded, glancing at the little clock that sat proudly on his desk. "You've done more than improve, Maya. You reminded me that the best companies and the best people are built not by fear, but by kindness." Maya smiled, her heart full. "And kindness," she said quietly, "is timeless." He looked at her for a long moment, then smiled back. "Exactly." The clock ticked one more time, steady and sure, a small wooden reminder that a single act of kindness could change even the coldest heart. And so, in the building once ruled by silence and tension, laughter and warmth took their place. All because the most disliked staff decided to give a gift and ended up giving something far greater. A heart. A lesson. A change that would last forever. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you find this story worth watching. If you do, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful stories. Like, comment, and share this video to your friends and loved ones. Your support and engagement encourage me to post more videos. Thanks for watching.